Dear chosen ones, have you ever looked around your own family and thought, why do I feel like a stranger here? Not because you don't love them, but because your spirit just doesn't fit. The conversations feel too shallow, the silence feels too loud. The laughter sometimes echoes like a language you were never taught. And deep down, you've always carried questions no one else dared to ask. Why do I feel so much? Why does pain hit me harder? Why do I sense things no one else sees? Why do I carry the weight of things that didn't even happen to me? That's not random. That's spiritual inheritance. What if I told you, you're not crazy, you're not dramatic, you're not too much, you're called, you're not here to blend in, you're here to break open, because in every bloodline there's one soul, a disruptor, a healer, a spiritual architect, and that one is chosen not for ease but for elevation, not for applause but for alignment. They are marked to carry out what no one before them was strong enough to complete. And maybe, just maybe, that one is you. You've always known you were different, but no one ever explained why. So today, we're going there. We're going to talk about the real reason only one is chosen in every family, and why that one often walks alone, why that one often cries in silence, why that one is targeted with jealousy, misunderstood for their quiet, and overlooked even while holding everyone else together. It's not a punishment, it's not rejection, it's divine strategy. And before we go deeper, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to everyone who's been supporting this mission through Super Thanks. Your love and generosity aren't just keeping this message alive. They're helping it reach the ones who are silently battling with questions they've never had the words to speak. Thank you for sowing into a message that so many are too afraid to share, but so many more need to hear. Now, if your heart is already pounding, if your spirit is already sitting up straighter, if your eyes are tearing up because this message feels like it was carved out of your own bones, don't scroll away. This is for you. Hit that like button, not for the algorithm, but as a spiritual agreement. If you're not subscribed yet, this is the moment, and I want you to drop 999 in the comments. That number is prophetic. It represents the one soul the shepherd leaves the 99 to find, because you are that one. So take a breath, settle in, let the distractions fall away, because in the next few minutes we are about to unlock the sacred reason why you feel different, why your pain has been so deep, and why heaven handpicked you, not to suffer, but to shift everything. Let's go deeper. The truth is waiting. God's chosen ones. Did you know why is only one chosen in every family? Let's be honest, chosen one. This path you walk rarely feels like a reward. It doesn't feel like applause or celebration. It feels like battle, but not the kind of war the world sees on the surface. This is a silent war, a war within, one that's fought in your spirit, in the shadows of your heart, in the silence of your thoughts. While others go about their lives unaware, you're navigating emotional landmines planted decades ago. This isn't just your pain you're carrying. You've been silently bearing the weight of your family's trauma, the curses, the generational patterns no one else dared to name. Why is it that you feel exhausted walking into a room full of your own relatives? Why do you pick up on the shifts, the glances, the tension no one speaks of? Because your spirit has been tuned to frequencies others can't hear. You've become the spiritual sensor in your bloodline. You notice what they ignore. You feel what they suppress. And somewhere deep down, you know, you were never sent here to blend in. You were sent to end it. But here's the real question. Why you? Why not your sibling, your cousin, or even your parent? Why were you the one chosen to feel it all, see it all, break it all? Could it be that heaven saw your willingness before you even knew you had strength? That before you ever prayed for clarity, the divine had already marked you as the one who would stand in the gap. Isaiah 6:8 says, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?' And I said, 'Here am I, send me.'" You see, chosen one, you didn't step into this role because you were the loudest or the most prepared. You were chosen because somewhere in your soul was the quiet courage to say yes to what others ran from. Real life story after story echoes this truth. Think about Oprah Winfrey, raised in poverty, surrounded by abuse and burdened with rejection from her own family. She carried generational pain with her. Yet, through her healing conversations entered millions of homes. What made her different? It wasn't just her voice, it was her willingness to confront what others hid. Isn't that the same fire burning in you? The moment you chose to forgive the ones who never apologized, to love even when love wasn't modeled to you, you stepped into that same divine lineage of healers. No one claps for you when you cry in silence after holding everyone else up. No one throws you a parade for being the one who refuses to continue the cycle. But heaven sees every spiritual boundary you've created, every tear you've cried, every temptation you've resisted. It has not gone unnoticed. You weren't placed in your family to fit in. You were placed there to change everything. Romans 8:19 reminds us, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." Could it be that your entire bloodline has been waiting for you all along? Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt like your presence alone makes people uncomfortable? Not because of anything you say, but because of what you carry. Have you ever felt isolated, even in a room full of people you love? That's not a flaw. That's your spiritual signature revealing itself. You are the shift in your generation. You are the one who sees the wound, not as something to hide, but as something to heal. You're not angry for no reason. You're not sensitive for no reason. Your soul has been prepared for this war, because what ends with you won't reach your children. What you refuse to pass down stops right here. One example of this is Nelson Mandela. He carried the bitterness and generational trauma of an entire people group, yet chose forgiveness to break the chain of hatred. He didn't have to. He could have chosen revenge. But the chosen don't act on impulse. They respond to divine instruction, just like you've done, again and again, even when no one thanked you for it, even when they mocked your silence, misunderstood your distance, or took your kindness for weakness. You're not here to be liked. You're here to liberate. Every generational curse you've broken, be it addiction, emotional abuse, silence, violence, poverty, fear, it's all spiritual warfare. And you, chosen one, are on the front lines. Galatians 6:9 tells us, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." That's your promise, that all this pain, all this inner work, it's not for nothing. You may not see the fruits yet, but you're planting trees your descendants will rest under. You were never meant to walk an easy road. Just look at the life of Maya Angelou. Her childhood was marked by trauma and silence. But from that silence came some of the most powerful words the world has ever heard. She didn't just survive, she transformed her pain into legacy. And so will you. Have you noticed that every hardship in your life has come with a lesson meant to awaken, not weaken you? Do you realize now that the reason you feel so heavy isn't because you're broken, but because you're carrying a divine assignment that requires sacred strength? Sometimes being chosen feels like abandonment, like you've been set apart but not supported. But Deuteronomy 31:6 promises, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." You are not alone in this. God walks with you through every dark season, and the pain you carry isn't a punishment, it's a positioning. He is placing you where others couldn't go. He's molding you into the leader, the breaker, the healer your lineage needed but never had, until you. Take a look at Tyler Perry. Raised in an abusive household, silenced in his youth, and often homeless, he chose healing over hatred. And in doing so, he didn't just change his life. He opened doors for millions. Just like you're opening doors in the spirit, breaking invisible chains your ancestors never had the chance to face. This isn't about fame or recognition. This is about freedom. The isolation you've been feeling. That deep, unshakable sense of separation from the world, even from people you love. That isn't random. It's not punishment. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you. That's God pulling you into sacred solitude. He's not hiding you. He's sharpening you. When a warrior is being prepared for the greatest battles, they are trained away from the noise, far from the crowd. That's you, chosen one. While others get to remain in the comfort of their chaos, you're being separated, because transformation requires isolation. Have you noticed how everything in your life feels delayed? Opportunities slipping through your fingers? Doors taking too long to open? That's not failure, that's divine timing in motion. What feels like stagnation is actually precision. God is aligning every moment of your life, not with convenience, but with purpose. You're not being slowed down. You're being timed for impact. Can I ask you something? Why do you think the pressure has been so constant? Why is it that even your rest is filled with tension? Why does it feel like peace is something you have to fight for instead of freely receive? It's because what you're carrying isn't light. It's destiny. And destiny doesn't sit quietly. The weight on your shoulders, it's not random hardship. It's the weight of oil, of calling, of divine purpose. You were chosen to carry something heavy, and with that comes crushing. Because before oil can pour, the olive must be crushed. And that's what so many don't see about your life. They see the light, but not the darkness you walked through to protect it. They admire your strength, but they weren't there in those moments you laid face down, begging God to take the calling away. But He didn't. Why? Because He knew something you're just beginning to understand. You won't quit. You're not built to quit. You're not just chosen, you're assigned. Think about the life of Harriet Tubman. Born into slavery, crushed by the systems around her, she wasn't just fighting for her own freedom. She became the bridge for hundreds of others to walk across. She was isolated, hunted, and feared. But she never stopped. Why? Because like you, she wasn't living for herself alone. She was chosen to break chains for generations. That's your story too. You've cried over things that others dismiss. You've been sensitive to dysfunction others have learned to tolerate. And you've carried burdens that seem invisible to everyone else. It's not weakness, it's discernment. You feel deeply because you're wired to sense spiritual realities that others can't comprehend. Your emotions aren't a curse, they're intelligence. Have you ever considered that your tears are holy, that your pain is sacred? Because you're not just feeling for you, you're feeling for your bloodline. Psalm 34:18 tells us, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." That's not just a comforting verse, that's a confirmation. God hasn't abandoned you in the crushing. He's closer than ever. In fact, the moments when you thought He had gone silent were the very moments He was working the hardest behind the scenes. The silence wasn't absence, it was strategy. Let me show you something else. Look at the life of Martin Luther King Jr. The pressure, the death threats, the tension he lived under daily. It wasn't just personal, it was generational. He became the wall between oppression and hope. But what many forget is that he struggled. He doubted. He broke down in prayer, yet he still rose. That's the kind of weight destiny brings. That's the kind of crushing the chosen must endure. And you too are standing in that space where legacy is born, not out of ease, but out of endurance. Because while others live for themselves, You're carrying the spiritual load of everyone who came before you and everyone who's coming after you. You are the hinge between the old and the new, the bridge between what was and what must be. Romans 5:3-4 says, "We also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope." That's your blueprint. What you're enduring right now isn't taking from you. It's building something eternal within you. This tension, this heaviness, is birthing unshakable character. And with that character comes influence, legacy, change. But let me ask you again, how many times have you felt like you were about to collapse under it all? Like you were one more burden away from breaking? And yet somehow you didn't. You got up, again and again. That resilience, it's not just your willpower, it's spiritual reinforcement. Look at the story of Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and author of Man's Search for Meaning. Surrounded by death and despair, he found purpose in suffering. He realized that those who endured weren't the strongest physically, but the ones with the clearest sense of purpose. Just like you, the weight you carry becomes lighter the moment you understand it's not meant to destroy you. It's meant to shape you. It's not the end, it's the beginning. You see, chosen one, no one ever told you this part. They tell you about purpose, but not the process. They celebrate your light, but not your nights. But I'm here to tell you, the burden isn't your final chapter. It's the spark that lights your awakening. You're not here to merely survive. You're here to transform. Everything you touch, everyone you meet, every atmosphere you walk into, it changes because of you. The healing begins with you. The shift starts with you. Because when God assigns someone to carry the oil, He also gives them the authority to cleanse every space they enter. Isaiah 10:27 says, "The yoke will be broken because of the anointing." That means the very pressure crushing you now is the same force that will break the chains around you. You've been anointed to break yokes, to shatter strongholds, to disrupt cycles, and it's not easy, but it's holy. Now think about Malala Yousafzai. Shot for speaking out, isolated in her advocacy, she chose not to shrink. She rose, and through her, the next generation of girls found their voices. You may not be on the world stage, but in the realm of the spirit, you are a giant. Your obedience, your endurance, your refusal to give up, it's shifting your entire lineage. So here's the truth, and I want you to carry it in your spirit. The reason it's been so heavy is because the assignment is sacred. The reason it hurts is because it's holy ground. You're not walking through this for nothing. You're walking through this to become, to awaken, to unlock. What if your burden is the key to a door that only you can open for your family? What if your healing releases hundreds behind you? Let's talk about something few people are truly ready to face, something even the strongest souls try to avoid: divine isolation. Not loneliness, not abandonment, but isolation with a holy purpose. You see, chosen one, there's a distinct difference between being alone and being isolated by divine design. One is accidental, the other is intentional. And what you've been going through? It's not an accident, it's a sacred setup. Divine isolation is the season where God removes the distractions, the noise, and even the comfort of familiarity, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Have you noticed how the people closest to you seem to no longer see you? How conversations with friends feel empty, and your presence feels too much for those around you? That's not rejection, that's revelation. You're being separated because your vision no longer fits the room you've been in. Tell me this, have you ever felt unseen in the very places you expected to be celebrated? Have you ever walked into a family gathering and felt like a stranger? You speak love and receive silence. You bring truth and are labeled rebellious. You radiate light, and somehow that makes others squint in discomfort. Why? Because when you are truly chosen, your very presence disrupts anything fake, fearful, or fragile. That's why you're not being abandoned, you're being set apart. And there's a holy difference. John 15:19 says, "If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world." You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to be set apart, pulled out from the crowd, because your purpose was never found within it. Even Jesus faced this. In Mark 6:4 he said, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own town, among his relatives, and in his own home." He was the Son of God, yet dismissed by those who knew his name, but not his purpose. Sound familiar? Maybe you've felt misunderstood even by those you've helped the most. Maybe you've been overlooked while carrying the solutions no one else sees. Just like Joseph, he didn't get thrown into a pit because he was wrong. He was thrown in because his brothers recognized the greatness in him before it even manifested. That's the burden of vision. Others sense your destiny before you fully understand it yourself, and their fear of what you carry often shows up as rejection. Look at Elon Musk's journey. When he started talking about electric cars and space travel, many laughed at him, even close colleagues. But divine isolation isn't meant to feel comfortable. It's meant to create clarity. Musk wasn't seeking approval. He was guided by vision. And so are you. The more profound your mission, the more uncommon your path will feel. You don't grow wings while surrounded by applause. Just like the butterfly, your transformation happens in silence, in the cocoon, in the hidden places where no one claps and no one watches. Isaiah 49:2 affirms this. "He made my mouth like a sharpened sword. In the shadow of his hand he hid me. He made me into a polished arrow and concealed me in his quiver." Before the unveiling comes, the concealing. Before the spotlight, the solitude. So, if you're asking yourself right now, why did they leave? Why did that door close? Why does it feel like I'm walking through a spiritual wilderness? Pause. Could it be that heaven is hiding you on purpose? Could it be that what God is building inside you is so sacred that it had to be protected from premature exposure? Because the greater the calling, the deeper the separation. And sometimes the silence of heaven is not absence. It's the sound of God sculpting your soul. Think of Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in isolation, 27 years of being hidden, misunderstood, and forgotten by the world. But when the time came, he emerged not bitter, but prepared to lead a nation into healing. What if your isolation is producing something just as impactful? What if your current cocoon is about to break open into a realm you couldn't have handled last year or even last month? Because, let's be honest, growth doesn't happen in the light. It happens in the hidden, in the pressing, in the refining. And here's another truth. Chosen one, you feel so deeply, not because you're weak, but because your heart was designed to carry burdens and blessings others can't. You were crafted to sense spiritual things that are invisible to most. That's why you often weep when others stay numb. That's why injustice disturbs you when others brush it off. Your sensitivity is not a flaw, it's a divine sensor. Romans 8:30 says, "And those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified." Every tear, every heartbreak, every closed door, it's part of a pattern that's leading to glory. Not worldly recognition, but divine positioning. Have you heard the story of Mother Teresa? She walked through years of spiritual darkness, feeling disconnected from God, even while serving the poorest of the poor. But her isolation became her power. She was forming something eternal in the silence. And so are you. Maybe you're not holding orphans in Calcutta, but maybe you're carrying healing for your entire family line. Maybe your yes in silence will be the echo of freedom for someone generations from now. So now, what if the discomfort you're feeling is not an ending, but a spiritual hallway, a place between what was and what is to come, a transition space where God isn't punishing you, but positioning you? Could it be that the silence surrounding you is the very sign that something holy is happening within you? Here's the mystery of divine isolation. The same people who couldn't see you now will eventually have no choice but to witness your elevation, just like Joseph's brothers, who once mocked him, bowed before him. Just like David, who was forgotten in the fields, became king in front of the very ones who overlooked him. And just like you, chosen one, your silence is not weakness. It's strategy. God hides what he values. He conceals what he's preparing. And when the time is right, no one will be able to deny the oil that drips from your life. Have you ever wondered why you always seem to carry a deeper awareness than anyone else around you? Why, when everyone else is laughing without a care in the world, there's a part of you grieving, seeing beneath the surface, sensing what others can't? While others drown in distraction and scroll their lives away, you're tuned into a frequency no one else hears. There's a voice whispering in your soul, one they can't detect, guiding you, nudging you, revealing truths that have no physical evidence but carry undeniable weight. And while they sleep soundly at night, your spirit is wide awake, alert to something unseen, something unspoken. Could it be that you're not imagining this sensitivity? Could it be that you were wired this way because you were chosen to stand in spiritual authority for your entire bloodline? Chosen one, your sensitivity is not a flaw. It's your discernment. It's your spiritual radar. Every glance, every pause, every shift in tone, you catch it, don't you? The way your sister smiles, but you know it's a mask. The way your parents' silence is loaded with tension even when they say, "It's nothing." The atmosphere in the room changes before anyone speaks, and somehow you feel it all before it even unfolds. That's not paranoia. That's prophecy in motion. It's spiritual discernment working through your emotions. It's your spirit speaking when your mind hasn't even caught up yet. 1 Corinthians 2:14 says, "The person without the Spirit doesn't accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolish because they are discerned only through the Spirit." You were never supposed to operate on the same level as everyone else. You were chosen to feel what others ignore so you could break what others repeat. Let's pause and ask, why do you think you're the one who carries the weight of what's wrong in the family? Why do you cry when no one else notices anything is broken? Why does your spirit feel shaken in rooms where everyone else seems at ease? It's because you were appointed to be the sensor, the bridge, the breaker. When a storm brews beneath the surface, others go numb. But you intercede, you sense, you pray. That's not just a role, it's a calling. In moments when the family erupts, when chaos takes over, you don't react, you retreat into the Spirit. You don't scream, you listen. You don't panic, you pray. Because something within you already knows. The battle is not just emotional or mental, it's spiritual. And you've been chosen to stand in the gap. Consider someone like Florence Nightingale. In a time when war was seen as a battlefield of men, she walked into the horror of it all and saw something no one else noticed. The invisible sickness, the conditions, the deeper root of suffering. Her discernment saved thousands, not because she was loud, but because she paid attention to what others ignored. Just like you feel the sickness in the spirit of your household. You feel the disconnection that no one's brave enough to name. But you've been sent to speak to it, not always with words, but with presence, with posture, with prayer. And in those moments of collective panic, when the news breaks, when the emergency strikes, when the family starts unraveling, have you noticed how people start looking to you? Even if they don't say it, they look to you for grounding. Why? Because deep down, they know you carry something solid, something rooted. You may feel like the black sheep, but in crisis you become the anchor. That's not by accident, that's divine design. Isaiah 58:12 declares, "Your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and will raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called repairer of broken walls, restorer of streets with dwellings." You are the repairer, the one who senses what needs healing before the wounds even bleed. But what happens when you carry all of this and no one sees it? What happens when the world claps for the loudest, but you're quietly holding up your household in prayer, in discernment, in midnight tears? That's the hidden cost of being chosen. The gift of awareness is heavy. It doesn't come with applause. It comes with responsibility. But I want you to remember this. Just because they don't see what you carry doesn't mean heaven doesn't reward it. Matthew 6:6 promises, "When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you." Your unseen obedience is stacking eternal rewards. Your quiet strength is rewriting your family's future. Look at Maya Moore, a basketball superstar who paused her career at its height, not for injury, but to fight for justice and free a wrongfully imprisoned man. Everyone else was distracted by fame, trophies, and recognition. But she discerned something deeper. She felt the injustice when the system said nothing was wrong. Her awareness carried weight, and it changed a man's life. Your awareness, chosen one, carries that same potential. You may not be freeing someone from prison, but your prayers are breaking chains no one else sees. So ask yourself, what if this awareness is not a burden, but a blessing in disguise? What if your deep emotions, your discomfort in rooms others find cozy, your tears when nothing seems wrong? What if all of that is the early warning system heaven implanted in your soul to protect the people you love? What if you're the prophet in the house, the unseen priest, the watchman on the wall? You weren't chosen to be normal. You were chosen to be spiritually attuned, to pick up on what others dismiss, to respond before the crisis hits, to pray even when no one asks. You were chosen to be the storm stopper, the spirit breaker, the silent warrior. Because when others fall apart, you stand. And when others collapse in fear, you close your eyes and tap into a force greater than them all. That's not weird. That's anointing. It's not that fear doesn't visit you. It does. You feel the tremble in your hands, the quickening of your heartbeat, the uncertainty that creeps in when the world spins out of control. But chosen one, what sets you apart is that you never let fear take the throne. You carry something stronger, something heaven-placed and spirit-led. It's called divine sensitivity, a spiritual radar that activates not in comfort, but in chaos. While others stumble in confusion, you navigate by an invisible compass, a sacred awareness guiding your every step when logic fails and the world goes dark. This is not weakness. This is spiritual strength in its purest, most raw and holy form. What others mistake as overthinking, God calls discernment. What they call too emotional, God calls divinely attuned. You weren't made to blend in. That's why crowds make you anxious. That's why trends exhaust you. That's why following the world's noise never sat right in your soul. You were born to be a lighthouse, standing firm in your family's storm. You see things before they break. You feel the tremors before the quake. You hear the quiet whisper in the spirit before the flood comes. That's not imagination. That's insight. Psalm 119:130 says, "The unfolding of your words gives light. It gives understanding to the simple." You have been given an inner light, not to showcase yourself, but to illuminate paths others can't see. You were chosen to walk ahead, to warn, to protect, to prepare. Think of someone like Princess Diana. She felt deeply. She wept for the world's pain. She walked into hospitals, touched those everyone else ignored, and carried a sensitivity that made her both admired and misunderstood. But It wasn't weakness. It was her assignment, just like yours. You feel before others do. You care when others numb themselves. You can't turn off your awareness because God wired you as a guardian, not a spectator. Have you ever wondered why certain things disturb you more than they do others? Why that show unsettles you? Why that person's energy drains you? Why that place makes your spirit feel off? That's not oversensitivity. That's discernment. You were chosen to feel the spiritual atmosphere long before it shows up in the physical. You're the one who can see the cracks in the foundation before anyone else even knows there's a problem. That doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you prophetic. 1 Corinthians 12:10 tells us that some are given the gift of discerning of spirits. That's what's alive in you. The Spirit of God whispers warnings into your soul. And when the world rushes toward false comfort, you carry the truth they'll soon need. But let's be honest, this sensitivity hasn't always felt like a gift. There are days it feels like a burden, like you're carrying emotions that aren't yours, crying for reasons you can't explain, sensing storms that haven't even formed yet. You've likely tried to explain it, only to be met with confusion or dismissal, maybe even ridicule. And that isolation, that heaviness, that aching to be understood, it's part of the cost, but also part of the confirmation. Because God doesn't place this kind of sensitivity in just anyone. He entrusts it to the ones who will not misuse it, to the ones strong enough to bear it without letting it break them, to the ones who will carry the fire without burning the house down. You, chosen one, are the spiritual watchman over your family's soul. Have you heard of Dietrich Bonhoeffer? A theologian and pastor during Nazi Germany, he felt the spiritual decay of his nation before it became visible. While others turned a blind eye, he spoke up. He carried the weight of truth when silence would have been easier. He didn't just see the cracks, he stood in them. That's what you're called to do. When no one else sees the danger, you stand in the gap. When others hide from the truth, you walk into it with boldness. And when the storm comes, and it will, they will turn to you. Not just because of what you know, but because of what you feel. Your intuition is a shelter. Your presence is a lighthouse. Let me ask you something. How many times have you downplayed what you sensed, only to have it confirmed later? How often have you ignored your spiritual instinct because others thought it was too much, only to realize your spirit was right all along? That wasn't coincidence. That was confirmation. God has been training your spirit to trust itself, because the day will come when that voice inside you will be the only guide through the fog. And you'll lead not just yourself, but others. Romans 8:14 says, "For those who are led by the Spirit of God are the children of God." You're not guided by trends. You're not led by logic. You're led by something higher, and the world won't always understand it. That's why this journey feels lonely at times, but it won't be lonely forever, because as your sensitivity sharpens, so does your purpose. And that purpose is tied to legacy. Take someone like Nikola Tesla. He was mocked, misunderstood, and labeled eccentric, but his sensitivity to energy, to frequencies, to things unseen, laid the foundation for the very technology we use today. What seemed like strangeness was actually genius cloaked in sensitivity. You might not be building machines, but you're building spiritual foundations. You're protecting futures. You're praying for people before they even know they're in danger. You're sensing storms and releasing calm. That is not accidental. That is legacy in motion. And here's the secret, the layer you may not have uncovered yet. The reason you feel everything so deeply isn't just about your journey. It's about who you're called to cover. Your children, your siblings, generations to come. You're the breaker of patterns, the protector of inheritance, the one who sees the snake before it bites, who smells the fire before the smoke, who speaks peace before the war erupts. This calling wasn't just handed to you, it was chosen for you. because God trusted that you would use it well. Let's speak the truth, the kind of truth most families are too afraid to even whisper. Every bloodline has its shadows, unspoken patterns, invisible chains, silent agreements that get passed down generation after generation. Cycles of dysfunction wrapped in tradition, poverty disguised as just the way things are, addiction buried under layers of shame and secrecy, emotional silence so loud it becomes deafening, abuse swept neatly under the rug, never spoken of again, dreams choked before they could even take their first breath. And while most people simply survive within these patterns, some are born to disrupt them. Some are born with a soul too awakened to pretend, too spiritually sensitive to ignore what others have normalized. That soul is you. Have you ever looked at your family and felt a weight that had no name, a heaviness that lingered even during celebrations, a knowing that something in the atmosphere wasn't right, even if everyone else acted like it was? That's not your imagination, that's your spiritual discernment working overtime. God gave you eyes that see through denial, a heart that won't settle for silence, and a calling that resists cycles of pain. You weren't born to repeat the dysfunction, you were born to confront it, to challenge the curses no one dared to name, to say boldly and firmly, "It ends with me." Ezekiel 22:30 speaks directly to this moment. "I looked for someone among them who would build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land, but I found no one." But he did find someone, you. You're the one standing in the gap for your bloodline. And yes, it hurts. Of course it does. Spiritual warfare wrapped in family dynamics always does. It's lonely, exhausting, and at times you've probably wondered why it had to be you. Why couldn't you just be normal? Why couldn't you just go along with things like everyone else seems to? But chosen one, you were never made to fit in. You were made to rebuild, to reconstruct what was broken, not with bricks and mortar, but with truth, prayer, healing, and courage. That kind of mission comes with a cost. It costs your comfort. It costs your inclusion. It costs the illusion that everything is fine when your spirit is screaming that it's not. Think about Malcolm X. Born into a legacy of trauma, raised amidst fear and systemic oppression, he didn't just inherit those chains, he challenged them. He confronted the system that broke his family. He became a voice his ancestors never had. Just like you. You were born into your family not to maintain its image, but to transform its future. What broke them won't break you. What silenced them will only make your voice louder. Have you noticed how pretending never sat well with you? How faking smiles at family events made your stomach turn? How pretending everything was okay when deep down you felt the spiritual weight of centuries pressing down on you? That's because you weren't wired for denial. You were wired for deliverance. God placed a different kind of fire in you. Jeremiah 1:5 reminds us, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." You were set apart from the beginning, not because you're better than your family, but because your mission is different. You carry the assignment of a cycle breaker. And yes, there will be moments when that role feels unbearable. Moments when your tears feel endless, when the emotional labor of healing what others avoided feels too heavy. But do you know what that weight really is? It's the weight of transformation, the pressure of becoming the first to heal, the first to confront, the first to say no, the first to choose therapy instead of silence, prayer instead of pride, growth instead of gossip. You're not just breaking cycles, you're building altars of restoration where there were once generational wounds. Consider someone like Frida Kahlo. Her art was deeply personal, filled with raw pain and unspoken emotions. She gave visual language to the wounds others were too scared to name. Her work disrupted silence and demanded healing. You may not be painting canvases, but your life, your choices, are painting a new future for your lineage. You're healing wounds without visible bandages. You're restoring what was never whole. You're giving voice to generations who suffered in silence. Let me ask you this. How many times have you felt like you were the only one who could see the dysfunction clearly? How often have you spoken up only to be met with resistance, defensiveness, or denial? That's because truth feels like an attack to those who are comfortable in lies. And yet, you keep standing, you keep speaking, because somewhere inside, you know your voice isn't just yours, it's ancestral, it's prophetic, it's redemptive. Isaiah 61:4 declares, "They will rebuild the ancient ruins and restore the places long devastated. They will renew the ruined cities that have been devastated for generations." That verse isn't just scripture, it's your spiritual biography. And let's not ignore the cost, because pretending never cost them anything, but honesty is costing you everything. But that cost is your offering, and what you sow now in tears, you will one day reap in freedom. For your children, your grandchildren, and the generations to come, you are the wall that says no more, the door that says it ends here, the wellspring that says, "I'll bless those who come after me with what I never had." Think about Simone Biles, a world-class athlete who, despite her strength, paused everything to protect her mental health and speak openly about the emotional toll of her past. She disrupted the cycle of silence that dominates both sports and trauma survivors. That's what you're doing, not just in your actions, but in your energy, your presence, your prayers. So now, chosen one, hear me clearly. What you carry in your spirit is not a mistake. Your awareness, your discomfort, your refusal to stay silent, that is divine evidence of your assignment. You weren't meant to look like your family. You were meant to lift them. You weren't made to inherit dysfunction. You were made to interrupt it. And the next time someone says, "Why do you care so much?" or "Just let it go," remind yourself, God chose me to care because no one else did. God chose me to feel it so it wouldn't be passed on again. God chose me to carry what others couldn't because He knew I wouldn't bury it. I'd break it. You are not the problem. You are the interruption, the healing, the prophecy fulfilled. And what's coming next will not only confirm why it had to be you, but show you how your very presence is rewriting the spiritual DNA of your entire bloodline. Get ready, chosen one. The legacy you're protecting is about to rise. You are not just here to shatter chains. You are here to build something sacred, something eternal. Altars, not of stone, but of healing. Altars of restoration where generations will come to drink peace instead of pain. Altars of truth rising where generations once bowed under lies. Chosen one, you were never just the breaker. You were always meant to be the builder, the one who looks at the ashes of what was and says, "Here, in this very spot, I will create something new. I will not let fear be my family's inheritance. I will not pass down silence, shame, or survival as legacy. I forgive not because they asked for it, but because my freedom demands it. I release what was never mine to carry, and I choose to bless what comes after me." You are the answered prayer of ancestors who wept without ever speaking. You are the whispered hope they carried but could not name. You are the reset, God's divine interruption to centuries of repetition. And while others may never understand what you're doing, heaven sees it all. Heaven has been watching since the beginning. Psalm 102:18 speaks of you when it says, "Let this be written for a future generation, that a people not yet created may praise the Lord." You were born with an assignment that stretches beyond the now. You are the chosen one, not by popularity, not by applause, but by divine design. You are the warrior God dropped into the middle of generational fire, not to burn, but to pull others out. You are the one who turns family curses into divine callings, who turns deep wounds into generational wisdom, who takes the most broken places and makes them sacred again. You take what hurt you and use it to protect others. And here you are now, standing at the exact intersection of history and destiny. But even in all this, there's still a truth you may not fully understand yet. A truth that explains why, after all you've survived, you still feel that ache, that pull, that quiet fire that won't go out. It's not confusion, it's calling. That divine restlessness you carry, it's holy. It's the signal that your mission is not yet done, because your story doesn't end with breaking. It continues with building something no one before you had the strength to create. Your story ends with freedom, real, deep-rooted, unshakable freedom that your children will walk in without knowing the price you paid to make it possible. And yes, people may question you now. They may call you distant, cold, overly intense. They may whisper behind closed doors, "Why is she always so serious? Why doesn't he just relax and enjoy life like the rest of us?" They don't understand your tears, your silence, your prayers at midnight, your refusal to settle. They don't know the burden of vision, the weight of discernment, the ache of carrying a promise that hasn't yet fully bloomed. But hear me, chosen ones are rarely understood in the moment, because chosen ones don't live for the moment. They live for what comes after. Look at someone like Rosa Parks. One small act of defiance, misunderstood and ridiculed by many in her time, but generations later, she is honored as a catalyst of freedom. She wasn't seeking attention. She was obeying a divine pull. So are you. Your obedience isn't for recognition, it's for resurrection. While others chase applause, you've been sowing seeds in silence, seeds of generational peace, of courage, of clarity. You've been uncelebrated, unnoticed, but unwavering. Galatians 6:9 reminds us, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." That harvest may not come today, it may not even come in your lifetime, but one day someone will run free because of the fields you tilled in tears. One day your children's children will walk boldly because you broke what tried to bind you. What you're doing isn't small. You are not just making better decisions. You are creating an entirely new spiritual ecosystem for your lineage. Think of the work of civil rights lawyer Brian Stevenson. He's been fighting for the wrongly convicted, often in silence against powerful systems. Few people see the decades of endurance, the heartbreak, the cost. But the legacy he's leaving is changing the world. Just like you, your quiet obedience is building a future your family can live in, even if they never fully understand where it came from. You are digging spiritual wells, so no one behind you has to thirst for identity, healing, or truth ever again. And when that day comes, when your family finally tastes peace and can't explain why, your name may never be spoken, but your sacrifice will echo through the generations like a sacred whisper. Why are we free now? Why is joy normal? Why does love feel easy here? Why do I feel protected, safe, grounded? And the answer will rise from the roots of your obedience. Because someone said yes when it would have been easier to run. Because someone paid the price with tears, intercession, and consecration. That someone was you. Isaiah 58:12 declares, "Your people will rebuild the ancient ruins and will raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called repairer of broken walls, restorer of streets with dwellings." That is your title in heaven. Repairer, restorer, rebuilder. You're not just choosing a different life, you are birthing a different bloodline. The angels know your name. They have witnessed every moment you felt unseen by the world. They've stood silently at your side while you carried burdens no one else even noticed. Every tear you've shed in secret has not been lost. It's been gathered. Heaven records your sacrifices with precision, with honor, with love. Nothing has gone unnoticed. And the fire you've been walking through, it wasn't meant to consume you. It was designed to refine you. to shape you into the flame that will illuminate the path for generations who would have otherwise remained in the dark. Chosen one, you are not just surviving the heat. You are becoming the light. And maybe, just maybe, one day in the future, a child in your bloodline will rise up, eyes burning with conviction, heart filled with peace, voice dripping with divine strength, and they won't even know why. But you will. You'll know it was because you stood when it hurt. You obeyed when it cost. You chose truth over convenience, purpose over applause, eternity over ego. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how much you've given, recognition rarely follows? Why the world seems to forget your efforts while celebrating those who never paid a real price? That's because the chosen aren't awarded by the world. They are crowned by heaven. While the world may never hand you a trophy, heaven already has. 2 Timothy 4:8 declares, "Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord will award to me on that day." That crown already bears your name. But before we close this sacred journey, there is one final truth, one last thread in the divine tapestry you've been weaving with your life, that must be revealed. This is the moment where everything clicks into place. Don't rush past it. Stay with me. What you're about to hear isn't just encouragement, it's your final key. If you've always felt like you didn't belong, like you were distant even among those closest to you, like you carried a weight no one else could see, you're not broken. You're built for battle. The spiritual weight you carry is proof of your design. You were born for resistance. You were born for restoration. God looked down the long, broken, blood-stained timeline of your family and said, "Enough." He pointed to you and said, "This one, this soul, this spirit, this warrior will carry the shift." Esther 4:14 echoes your purpose. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. You weren't just a response to a problem. You were the solution formed before the problem even began. You've questioned your emotions, your sensitivity, your pain. You've been told you're too much, too emotional, too intense. But what if that's exactly how God wired you to be? What if your tears weren't weakness, but prophetic insight? What if your emotions weren't dysfunction, but divine discernment? You were never meant to be like everyone else, because your calling was never common. You were spiritually coded to endure the impossible, to perceive the invisible, to withstand the unexplainable, and still rise. And yes, it has been lonely. You've cried in rooms where no one noticed. You've sat in crowds feeling like a stranger. You've wrestled with burdens too heavy for one heart to carry. But listen carefully. You have never walked alone. Heaven has been orchestrating every step. That silence you felt, it was never abandonment. It was strategy. God was speaking, just not in the language of noise. That pain you felt, it was never punishment. It was preparation. God was strengthening the muscle of your spirit. That isolation you endured, it was never rejection. It was revelation. God had to separate you to elevate you, because you carry something that couldn't be forged in comfort. Look at the story of Sojourner Truth. Born into slavery, silenced for years, she rose with fire in her voice and truth in her bones. She walked alone, but she spoke for generations. Just like you, there's something in you that hell tried to silence before you ever spoke a word. Something powerful, something disruptive, something sacred, but you're still here, still breathing, still rising, and that alone is proof that God isn't finished. He's just getting started. You were chosen for such a time as this, not because life made it easy, but because you refused to let the fire make you bitter. Instead, you became brighter. You became a torchbearer. You became the shift. And now here is my final blessing over your life. May every curse that haunted your family bow to the light you carry. May your voice echo through your bloodline and break every silence built on fear. May your hands build what generations were too wounded to construct. And may your life, yes, your very existence, become living proof that God always sends his strongest warrior into the hardest battle, not to lose, but to lead. You are not just changing your story, you are rewriting an entire legacy. And this world, it has no idea what's about to rise through you, but heaven does. Heaven rejoices over your obedience. Heaven has documented your tears, your prayers, your sacrifices. You are known there. You are honored there. And now it's your time to declare what your spirit already knows. So, if this has stirred something deep inside you, if a fire just lit inside your soul, if a part of you just woke up and said, "Yes, this is who I am," then say it. Declare it. Let heaven hear you. Comment now. I am the shift. Not because you need attention, but because your voice is aligning with your assignment. Because every time you say yes, you tear down another wall. You break another chain. You ignite another generation. And in doing so, you don't just end a message. You begin a movement. You are not just a survivor. You are a legacy builder. You are not just chosen. You are activated. So rise, chosen one. Your time is now. Your voice matters. Your legacy begins today. I am the shift. Type it, declare it, live it, and never look back. This is not just a declaration. It's a prophetic activation. These aren't just words. They are keys unlocking the next chapter of your divine destiny. For far too long, you've questioned your timing. You've wrestled with the magnitude of your calling, quietly carrying a fire that refused to be extinguished. But now that fire is not just a spark, it's a signal to the heavens and the earth that you are ready. The world has waited long enough. And now, you step forth, not as a question mark, but as a divine exclamation point. No more shrinking, no more second-guessing, no more apologizing for the weight you carry. Your voice was meant to shake systems. Your presence was designed to shift rooms. Your decisions will ripple through timelines far beyond what your eyes can see. You are not a ripple in the water. You are the wave that reshapes the entire shore. When you type those words, I am the shift, you're not just affirming something inspirational. You're agreeing with what heaven already knows to be true. You are aligning with the written promise over your life. The shift isn't coming. You are the shift. Your life, your actions, your very existence is the turning point for not only your own story, but for those tied to your obedience. And as we close this sacred message, let me say this from the depths of my soul. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying. Whether this is your first time encountering this kind of word, or you've been walking this journey with me for a long time, your presence here is not a small thing. It is divine alignment, and I honor it. To every single person who has stood in agreement with this word, I see you. To those who have prayed, commented, shared, and especially those who have donated through Super Thanks, I am deeply grateful for your support. Your giving not only sustains this space, but it empowers these messages to reach chosen ones across the globe who are still searching for confirmation, still seeking clarity, still waiting to hear someone speak the language of their soul. And if you haven't donated, hear me clearly. You are just as loved, just as valuable, just as honored. This space is not built on money, it's built on mission. Whether you sow financially or simply show up with an open spirit, you are part of this movement. I am thankful beyond words that you are here. Your energy, your faith, your yes to your own calling. It matters deeply. This message lives because you breathe life into it by receiving it. Now, let me speak directly to your heart. The reason you've been through so much isn't because you were cursed. It's because you were called. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. You weren't being delayed. You were being divinely preserved. And now, all that pressure you've endured, It's turning into purpose. The oil that flows from you is not common. It's costly, but now it's time to use it. Everything you need is already within you. The doors that felt locked, they're about to swing open. The rooms that rejected you, they're now adjusting to make space for you. The people who overlooked you, they'll be looking to you for solutions they never imagined you'd carry. Your time of hiding is over. Your time of rising has begun. You are stepping into a season where what was once impossible is now unfolding with ease. And it's not because the world suddenly changed. It's because you did. You stopped waiting for permission. You stopped waiting for signs. You became the sign. You became the shift. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Isaiah 61. That's not a metaphor. That's your reality. Let me also remind you, the impact of your life will not be measured by followers, likes, or titles. It will be measured by the lives you touch, the chains you break, and the light you carry. Legacy is not built in a day. It's built in every decision you make to show up, to speak truth, to live boldly in your calling. What kind of legacy are you building today? What would happen if you finally stopped playing small and lived like you were truly chosen? Because you are. You are chosen. You are seen. You are covered. You are equipped. You are necessary. You are the answer to problems others haven't yet realized they have. You are the voice that cuts through noise, the presence that shifts spiritual atmospheres, the light that darkness cannot comprehend. So when you type, "I am the shift," don't say it timidly. Say it like heaven is listening. Say it like angels are recording. Say it like your entire bloodline is about to experience the fruit of your courage. Say it like you finally understand. You're not waiting for your destiny. Your destiny has been waiting for you. As you go forth from this message, may divine favor chase you down and overtake you. May doors open that no man can shut. May wisdom flood your thoughts and peace guard your heart. May opportunities that once passed you by now circle back, reintroduced by grace and sealed with glory. May your home, your family, your finances, and your future be covered in supernatural provision and perfect timing. May you wake up each day with confidence, knowing that you are walking in a destiny that cannot be stopped. May every betrayal turn into a blessing, every setback into a setup, and every no into the loudest yes from heaven. May your voice grow stronger, your purpose grow clearer, and your reach grow wider. You are not finished. You are just beginning. Chosen one, I bless your hands, your mind, your voice, and your path. I bless your creativity, your discipline, and your faith. I bless every area where lack once lived. Let it now overflow. I declare that you will not miss what's meant for you. Not now, not ever, because the deal has already been done in heaven, and now it's manifesting on earth. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. Thank you for standing with me. Thank you for showing up for yourself. And if you feel led to support this work and help spread this divine message even further, please consider clicking Super Thanks below. Your contribution, no matter the amount, is deeply appreciated, and it helps this message find others like you who are just waiting for someone to say, "You are chosen." But whether you give or not, please know this: you are loved. You are valuable. You are the reason this message exists. And now, go forward boldly. You are not just walking into a new season. You are becoming the shift in it. I'll see you in the next word. Until then, be blessed, be fearless, and always remember, you are chosen, you are rising, and your time is now.